Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today we are talking about the latest studio album from Evoken entitled Mendacium, something or other, and them and zons and so forth. It's an album from a band. And they made it now, and we're talking about it now, and we're here together, you and me. We're doing this. I got you, and you got me. There's nothing we can't do. Mendacium is the 7th full-length studio album from American funeral doom crew Evoken, icons, pioneers, some would even say and suggest, of funeral doom. A sub-genre of death doom and doom metal that we haven't really talked a lot about here on the Metal Meltdown because it's not always a genre that has really intrigued me, and I think much like with some other kinds of like sub-genres, like say slam, at a certain point, a lot of this music just kind of bleeds together and gets a little boring for me. Hell, to be honest, as important as they are to the funeral doom genre, I've never really even spent a lot of time listening to Evoken. I'm only really familiar with their previous album, Hypnagogia, whatever the fuck it was called. And that was released like, 7-8 years ago? It's been a hot minute since I've even thought of Evoken. But after doing some research, I decided I needed and wanted to make an exception for Mendacium and for Evoken. I wanted to give them the time of day. The hot minute was over. There's a lot about this album before I had even listened to it that I just thought was really interesting and compelling. For one, there's the album's overall concept and story, combining religious and psychological horror. As Evoken themselves elaborate, Mendacium tells the tale of a 14th century elder Benedictine monk with malady from illness preventing him from leaving his room within the monastery he dwells within. His faith and service to God can never be satiated. Slowly declining in health and sleepiness from continuous pain, the monk encounters a hideous entity emerging through a tear in reality. The story questions, is the torment of this monk by each passing hour being inflicted by this entity, or is it all within his own mind? Secondly, the album is produced, mixed, mastered, and engineered by one Ron Bumblefoot Thal, who is not at all somebody I ever expected to pop up on a fucking funeral doom album. Like, this guy is a full-blown virtuoso guitarist who has also worked with guys like Scott Weiland and Mike Portnoy in bands like Art of Anarchy and Sons of Apollo, respectively, and on top of that, has also been a member of, like, big-name rock bands like Guns N' Roses and Asia. Like, it is, objectively, or at least for me, kinda weird to see him here, but it's the good kind of weird. It's the kind of weird that grabs you and forces you to pay attention. And thirdly and finally, I've just always been told that Evoken are a little bit more dynamic than your standard funeral doom crew, and after having spent time with Mendacium, I'm inclined to agree. Like, yeah, you still have your very slow-paced songs with your often lumbering and repetitive drawls and riffs. Those are staples of the genre. They're not going anywhere. You either love them or hate them, to each their own. But you also have a variety of other different ingredients and flavors and textures and ideas kind of wrapped around everything and weaved through everything to make it a more immersive, ominous, and cinematic experience. Opening number Matins, for instance, is every bit as lush and expressive as it is haunting and oppressive. It does a great job at using very simplistic atmospheric textures and soundscapes and some synthesizers and some subtle kind of angelic chanting choral vocals of sorts, and combining that with more morose, mournful, but very minimalistic kind of gothic piano work and some more regal melodic guitars and, some medium pace kind of like classic death doom devastation and more lumbering, slow, sludgy riffs and beats and drawls to create something that feels vast and has a lot of body and a lot of dimension. The band has apparently always worn a love of disembowelment and Paradise Lost quite proudly on their sleeves, and you can see that clear as day on this one fucking song alone. Then there's Lauds, which is simultaneously more fierce and more creepy. Like, you have some squealing guitars, some more churning, kind of janky, jagged riffs as well. You also have some pretty ominous, in-your-face, consuming guttural vocals, and you do have some more mid-pace percussion as well. There is a little bit more energy and momentum to this, at least as much as you can have with funeral doom. We also have some more unorthodox kind of like gothic textures and melodic guitar licks and some more quiet, almost whispered vocals at times. Transitioning into slower parts as well is pretty devastating. And the combination of these like very angelic, heavenly synths and this more bold kind of epic doom guitar work is pretty interesting as well. It's like epic, gothic, Christian doom metal in a way, and I fuck with it. Sext is a pretty intense and varied cut as well. Honest to God, if Typo Negative ever went full-blown funeral doom, I think it would have sounded something like this. Like the combination of dark ambient and more twisted, sinister riffage in the middle, and these kinds of like Peter Steele-esque kind of low-end vocals and some chugging riffs and, you know, gothic, doomy synths and riffs and beats. Like that's pure Typo Negative, but stretched out and made way more fucking miserable. And then there's None, which has some really cool twin guitar moments that have an almost kind of like yearning quality to them. Closing number Compline has sections of like full-blown, crushing, galloping, kind of crusty underground death metal sandwiched in between atmospheric breaks and drawls and very classic, oppressive, dark death doom. Unfortunately, as I mentioned before, there are some moments that are a little bit too slow-paced for my personal liking, some riffs and beats and drawls that are too repetitive for my personal liking. I also found that like instrumental ambient interluding cuts like Prime and Vesper were a little aimless and didn't really do much for me personally. But thankfully, everything else is good enough that I'm still immersed and engaged and entertained. I'm also really enjoying this production work from Bumblefoot. It's surprisingly quite rich and lush and vibrant. It has a dryness to it at times that in theory I shouldn't like, but I think that adds like some authenticity and just realness to this whole thing. Dare I say, maybe it's time for Bumblefoot to stop hanging out with like big name hard rock, heavy metal superstars and bands and start hanging out with like funeral doom, death doom bands? I do dare say, in fact. I do dare say it now, indeed. I'm feeling a very strong 3.5 out of 5 on this bad boy. I think it is a very, very, very good album, bordering on greatness, ultimately held back for reasons that are purely personal, I want to point out. Like, it is purely, truly personal. It comes down to the simple fact that there are aspects of Funeral Doom that I don't like, that are always going to be in Funeral Doom, and therefore they're on this album, but that doesn't change the fact that I just don't like them, and therefore it holds me back from being like, wow, this is fucking great, But like, it's right there. And I would say if you do love Funeral Doom, there's a lot to admire and appreciate here. If you are brand new to the genre, like if you don't know anything about it, I would say that this is actually a pretty good place to start, because this just does have a lot more going on, and it feels more accessible than some of the stuff I normally get sent and shown. Nothing more to really say, folks. It's a very good album with a lot of great elements and ideas, and I think you should check it out. 3.5 out of 5, a very enthusiastic one at that. Yeah! Kaboom jams! Yay! And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. Boom, more videos. Join us on Discord. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.